Hey everyone, Ben Coomber Radio, episode number 126, I think. If you listen to show, I think it was 124, 125. I've been butchering all the numbers of the shows because life is a pickle. I'm suffering from amnesia, probably onset dementia, but it's alright because my girlfriend is actually a dementia nurse. So if I start to really dribble and lose control and get the plot, I'll be well catered for. She can do my cooking and everything, it'll be fine. Anyway, another guest show. Me and Rachel are on the back burner. There's no Q&A. I've got a guest. The guest is someone that I have followed for quite a while on and off throughout the industry. He's been a man that's been instrumental in various different pockets of the fitness industry, doing some nice specialist things. We're going to uncover those today. And this guy is in probably the stag capital of the world. Mike Mahler, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Ben. Thanks a lot for having me on your show.
Sir, you are welcome. You're from Las Vegas.
I'm from Washington, D.C., actually. That's where I was born, and for the most part, grew up. But I've lived out here for about, coming on 8 years now. It's hard to believe it's been that long, but yeah, coming on 8 years.
Okay, so is it what everyone thinks it is? Is it just limousines, casinos, women dancing on tables? Because I don't know.
I mean, just at my house, it's like that. So yeah, it's definitely like that in town. No, there's two sides of Las Vegas. That's definitely all accurate. If you go to the Las Vegas Strip, that's all 100% correct. But there's another side where there's actually people who live here in Las Vegas, and we don't live on the Strip. We live in suburbs outside of the Strip. So I live in a really nice suburban neighborhood that would be similar to a lot of neighborhoods in America. But I mean, I can see the Strip from my balcony, and it's there anytime I want to go have fun, go to a concert, play cards, have a good time. It's there. And then I have my peace and quiet over here where it's beautiful. I've got a lot of spacious fields for my dogs in the neighborhood and a peace and quiet to get work done. So I actually like the mix of Las Vegas. It works for me. Nice.
It's definitely on my bucket list. I've told the girlfriend it might be one of my destinations when we get married, but I'll have to pull my finger out and actually ask the question first. Anyway.
You know, it's funny. I go to the UK quite a bit to teach, and the party starts on the way to Vegas. It's a much different demeanor than on the way back to London. So when people are on Virgin Atlantic flying to Vegas, the party starts in the air. The second that plane's in the air, people are drinking, they're dancing in the aisles, they're having a good time. On the way to London, though, people are very somber, they're very quiet. The plane lands, people are kind of depressed. It's always funny to see that because every single time I fly, it's like that.
Yeah, it's because everyone that's flying to London sitting there going, "Oh my God, is it going to be raining when we get to London? I haven't packed a Mac." But everyone else that's flying to Las Vegas is just thinking, "Oh, what am I going to do first? Am I going to go to the Burj or am I going to go to the..."
No, and having stayed in a lot of hotels in the UK, I'm sure people from there, when they come to Vegas, they are blown away. Because if you just go to an average hotel, that's pretty nice compared to what you'll get in London, especially given the cost of what it is. But even if you stay in a 5-star hotel in Vegas, which is still going to be way considerably cheaper than something like a 4-star hotel in the UK, I'm sure people are just blown away the second they walk in there. It's 1,000 square foot suite. It's probably bigger than most people's apartments out there and so forth. So I'm sure Vegas is a fun destination.
Woof. One day. Anyway, we need to get into the crux of this beast. This beast is a podcast. It's you, it's me. Mike Mahler, give people a little synopsis rundown. Who are you?
Sure, I'm a fitness expert, and I've worn a lot of hats since I've been in the fitness industry. I started off as a kettlebell instructor. I've traveled the world teaching workshops. I've created kettlebell DVDs. I've done ebooks. I've written fitness ebooks. I've written motivational ebooks, and then I've created a line of nutrition supplements under my label. So I've done quite a bit in the fitness. It's all under the fitness umbrella, but it's a variety of different things.
Well, that I'm gonna be honest and say you caught me on the fly there because that was way quicker than any other guest I've ever brought on the show. Usually I say, so tell me your life story, and I get 15 minutes. So you kind of caught
well,
me.
I can do that too if you want. I talk like I do my ad copy. I get to the point in the first paragraph, and then if you need more, I've got pages and pages of reasons why you should do something. So it's up to them. I try not to be too verbose. It's when I hear my voice enough doing my own podcast.
Oh, I hear you. I suppose what's probably important for an awful lot of people is why. What led you into fitness? Because I think that's key.
Yeah, sure. Fitness has always been a hobby of mine since I was about 18, and I'm 41 now. So fitness was very transformative to me. I realized the power of the discipline of getting in good shape, getting stronger, and then just in general, a great workout has the transformative power to just turn a day around. You can have a day where everything's going bad. You got your arguing at home, you've got financial stress, things are chaotic with business, and then all of a sudden you get in a great workout, and then you leave empowered and ready to take charge of all of those problems. So I've always been fascinated with the benefits of working out that go beyond just the physical. But anyway, I never got into the fitness business because I just didn't see an avenue until around 2002. I got into kettlebell training. Actually, around 2001, I got into kettlebell training. And then around 2002, I saw that Pavel Tsatsouline was teaching a kettlebell certification, and that intrigued me. And I wasn't necessarily thinking that I would go to this, get certified, and then jump into the business. But just for my own personal benefit, I thought it would be fun to take the course. After I took the course, though, I realized that this is a real ground floor opportunity, meaning that kettlebells are a perfect home-based training system. I liked how they embodied a lot of the modalities of Olympic lifting, but I found that the lifts with kettlebells are more accessible. In other words, it's easier to learn a kettlebell snatch than an Olympic lifting snatch. It's easier to learn a kettlebell clean and press than the equivalent with the barbell. Mm-hmm. And then I got laid off from a job that I hated. And I was making good money there, which is why I didn't quit it. But I didn't like the job. I was working in business developments for an internet company. So all these different things started coming together. I was doing fitness not as a profession at that time, but I was on the side. I was writing articles. I actually had a few online clients that I was designing programs for. And then when I got into kettlebell training, I realized this could be my unique selling point. This could be what I start off at with my fitness career, because I didn't want to just jump into the business and do what everyone else was doing. I wanted to have a unique selling point, and kettlebells was definitely it. And it came from a place of personal enthusiasm, so I want to emphasize that point. It wasn't something where I saw kettlebell training and said, I don't know if I like this, but I bet I can make a lot of money off of this. There was no reason for me to think I could make a lot of money off of it, period, because no one was doing a kettlebell-focused business. Nobody was even teaching kettlebells on a large scale, traveling, teaching courses, kettlebell gyms like you see now. The CrossFit wasn't in the picture yet, which was a big push for kettlebell training. So it was uncharted territory, but it was exciting. So, the long story short is I got into it full force, started teaching kettlebell courses, started doing classes, private lessons, articles on kettlebell training. Then I started making videos on it. Around 2005, this thing started getting some real traction in the marketplace. And that's when my income really took off. And it's been really good since then. So kettlebell training was a great entrance way for me. It was a way for me to get into this business, create a name for myself. And then I've parlayed that success into other things. So I got into hormone optimization around 2004. And then what I learned benefited me so much that when I started talking about it to other people, they were very intrigued. And then that became part of my business model, which led to a series of products, a lecture series. It was an integral part of my book, Live Life Aggressively, What Self-Help Gurus Should Be Telling You. And then that led to where I'm at now, where I designed a line of nutrition supplements to help men with their testosterone, to help women who have too much estrogen, to help men who have too much estrogen and need to lower that, to help with inflammation, restoration, recovery. So it's been an interesting ride where there's been a lot of zigzagging, but it's all under the umbrella of fitness.
Wowzers. So, when you first got into kettlebells, there was A, an opportunity, and
right.
B, there was, some inspiration on various levels from what you were taught. What's kept you interested in them? Because you're still teaching them, you're still flying around the world, putting out the kettlebell information.
Sure.
And what I'm getting to is, why should people at home pay attention to the kettlebell? Because, do you know what? It's been a tool that I've never really picked up. I've played around with it, and do you know what? It's just not clicked. So there's something for you that's clicked, and you're trying to inspire other people with that click. So what is it?
Yeah. Well, I don't try to inspire anyone. I put out stuff that I'm interested in, and if people want to learn more about that, great. But I never try to convince people to do things, because I think that's just That's prospecting. It's not positioning, and I'm a strong believer in positioning. So I put out great information that I'm genuinely interested in. That genuine enthusiasm comes through, and the people that are a right fit for me are going to gravitate towards that. And I think that's an integral part of my business. Mahler's aggressive strength, my motto: live life aggressively. I've picked a clearly defined lane with fitness where I'm going to attract a particular individual that wants to take charge of their life. They're going to be people that come to my website and they don't like my demeanor, they don't like what I'm all about, and that's perfectly fine. I put everything out there in that manner on purpose so that people that are not a good fit for me are not going to gravitate towards me. That makes my business much more enjoyable. It makes it much more fun. The mistake a lot of people make in our industry is that they are desperate and they feel that they need to work with every single person that is interested. They never turn down people. I turn down people all the time, even early in my career. When I felt that someone wasn't a good personality fit, forget it. But I don't want to get too far away from your question. Back to kettlebell training. With kettlebell training, one, I do a lot of other things too. I do body weight training, I do sprinting, I lift barbells, I do all that stuff. All right, so kettlebell training supports all of that. So if you have a goal of improving your deadlift, kettlebell training makes your posterior chain, your lower back, your glutes, your hamstrings very strong, very explosive, which carries over to barbell lifts, squats, deadlifts very well. The upper body kettlebell lifts, such as overhead pressing, Turkish get up, windmill, they make your core strong, they make your shoulders really strong. They make your shoulders more flexible and stable, and that carries over to things such as the bench press or a barbell overhead press or a handstand push-up. So kettlebell training is synergistic with other things you may want to do. You can do the ballistic work such as the swings, the snatches, the cleans in high repetitions to build your work capacity. Mm-hmm. So you can build your endurance with kettlebells, you can build up your core strength, your flexibility, and you can use it in and of itself to get in great shape, or you can have it as an adjunct to other things you do, which is where I'm at now. But what I liked about kettlebell training initially was, one, that this is a great home-based training system. And sure, you can have other things. You can have dumbbells. You can just do body weight drills. You can get in great shape just doing push-ups, pull-ups, body weight squats, and sprinting, right? That's all the average man or woman needs to do if they just want to be fit and healthy and have more energy to enjoy other parts of their life. But if you play around with kettlebell training, there's a large percentage of people just find these movements really fun. And when training is fun, you're more likely to stick with it. If training is something where you dread your training days going, I don't want to do it, but I'll just suck it up and do it, that's a battle of attrition. And eventually you're going to lose that battle. When you wake up and you're going, oh man, I can't wait to work out today, that's a good thing. So kettlebell training is another option for people to explore. And if it's something that you find fun and enjoyable, great, keep doing it. If it doesn't catch on to you, like you said, there's no need to force it. Just like I wouldn't force any training modality. You got to find something that's interesting for you. And that may change throughout your training career or your training hobby. Whatever you do for training may change over time. I've gone through phases where I just did body weight training. And while I was doing it, I loved it, and I thought I would never lift weights again. I was like, man, this is great. I'm just going to do this forever. Eventually, I got burned out with that. And then kettlebell training. I just did only kettlebells. Loved that. Didn't get so much burned out with that, but I wanted more variety, and that's when I added kettlebells back into other things. So it's another viable option that's very effective for people to explore. And most people are going to find that they like to mix and match modalities. So you may find that you do kettlebells in yoga or kettlebells in barbell work or kettlebells in body weight training. It's all very effective stuff.
I 100% agree. Now, the kettlebell seems like a great tool that you can use at home. And there's obviously a very diverse range of people that listen to this show, both coaches, people that are finding their path in nutrition, and people that are well on their path. Now, kettlebell's got a place for all these people somewhere. Now, when you talk to people about kettlebells, can someone just pick one up and start swinging it? Do you say, look, go and watch this YouTube video, it's really important that you understand this kind of chain of events, this kind of activation of muscles? What's your first little teaser for people to enable them to pick it up safely?
Well, I mean, ideally you work with a qualified instructor, because you can watch a video and the video could be fantastic. It could be very detailed instruction, but what you're seeing and what you're doing could be two totally completely different things. Mm-hmm. And I've had this experience where I've had people come to my workshops who have had my videos and other great videos from other instructors, and they thought they were doing everything right. And it turns out they were doing most things wrong because you can't see what you're doing. So I think it's very important, ideally, to get to a workshop, get to a good private instructor, get to a class at least, and have someone else take a look at your technique. Now, if you're going to start by just watching a video on YouTube or watching a training video such as mine, start off with a very basic movement such as a kettlebell swing, because that's not technically demanding, such as a kettlebell snatch or clean and press, clean and jerk, etc. A kettlebell swing is fairly basic, and you can get the gist of that pretty safely and effectively from good instruction. So that's a good place to start. And you'll get a lot of the benefits that are unique to kettlebell training through the swing. One thing I like about kettlebell training is that it teaches those ballistic motions better than anything else. Ballistic means you're actually working with momentum. Most forms of weight training, it's very controlled. It's not explosive. You're not working with momentum. With something like a kettlebell swing, you're learning how to project. You're learning how to absorb shock. You're learning how to load up your posterior chain, make your body work as one unit. And you can do these things with the dumbbell, but anyone who's ever done a kettlebell swing versus a dumbbell swing, you know that the kettlebell swing just feels much more fluid. It's just made perfectly for those motions. And kettlebells work extremely well for structural integrity training, where you're actually doing timed work, several minutes without putting the weight down, especially when you're doing an exercise such as the kettlebell snatch or the kettlebell clean and jerk, because you can actually rack a kettlebell. You can't do that so much with the dumbbells. In other words, with the kettlebell, I can actually rest right here with the kettlebell under my chin, close to the body. With the dumbbell, that's going to be awkward. I mean, this is not really a resting point. Mm-hmm. So those are just some of the unique benefits with kettlebell training. But yeah, start off with the swing and then build from there.
I think there's a nice little lesson there for people listening, even if you're a beginner, advanced trainer or coach, in that we are often very reluctant to invest just a little bit of time, a little bit of money to get some extra coaching. And I think this is very typical of the fitness industry, in that we do a couple of courses and we think we have enough to manage all our own training and stuff. And I think even for people like this, it's really important for, and you're coaches, so you need to go and see other coaches to see how they work to advance your knowledge.
One of the best coaches in the world is Mark Philippi, who's actually based here in Las Vegas. He has the Philippi Sport Institute. And I actually went and learned under him for about 4 months. I just worked out with him 4 times a week, went through his training system. And I learned so many technique points that improved my deadlift, my squat, my bench press, you name it. Because this guy has more experience than me, than definitely all the years I've trained and most people I know put together. He's got a very extensive background. And again, nothing takes the place of someone else checking your technique and giving you points, because you can't look in the mirror when you're doing heavy lifting on a deadlift or squat like that. That's going to change your technique already. Mm-hmm. So it's good to have that other person there going, all right, here's what you're doing right. Here's what you can improve upon.
Definitely. You're never too young or old in experience, wealth, or knowledge to get someone else to improve things. And I think, we've talked about mentors on the show quite a bit. And, the best people in the world have mentors. Right from the basic level right to the top, you need to get guidance now and again. And I know it kind of, people are reluctant to spend 50, 60, 70, 80 quid, whatever it is, to get a good high quality session. But, you think in terms of your results, that's just going to propel you.
Yes, exactly. It's an investment in yourself. And if you want to be a good trainer, you have to be a good trainee. So in other words, a lot of trainers, they will go seek out instruction, but they're telling the trainer what they want the trainer to do. And that means you're not a good trainee. We don't like it when people come to us and say, okay, here's what I want and here's how I want you to do it for me. It's like, no. I'm going to tell you what you need to do, right? You tell me what your goals are. I'm going to tell you how to get there. That's the whole point of you paying me. If you already know what to do, then why am I in the picture? Mm-hmm. So when I went and worked with Mark Philippi, I didn't go in there and tell him how to do his job. I went in there like any other trainee and said, hey, here's what I'd like to work on. He put together a program and I followed it. I didn't sit there and question why he had one thing there. I didn't look at it and go, well, maybe we should do this instead. No, because I wanted to get a legitimate experience, but also I wanted to show respect for his expertise, not go in there and question everything. And then it's interesting to be on that side of the coin, because before that I was so used to just training people. It was nice to actually take off that coach hat and be a trainee and get that side. It helps you relate to your customers better too.
100%. Right, let's make a segue. The other area for me that I see a real passion of yours from and you've already mentioned it, and that's the kind of topic of hormones. It's something that you talk
Sure.
about a lot. It's something that your kind of product line has been focused on. Is there a bit of a backstory there as to how
sure.
you got into hormones? Is it a personal experience thing?
Yeah, absolutely, definitely. I think so many of the things we learn about is because we want to benefit from what we're learning, as opposed to we're just learning something because we think we can make money off of it. So I've been fortunate that I've keep following my interests. I got into kettlebell training first because I was very interested in it. I wasn't even thinking that this would ever become something that would become a lucrative business. And then that was the next step. Same thing happened with hormone optimization. I got into it because I was going through a really stressful time in my life. This was around 2002. I was going through a divorce. I just started my business. So I was under a lot of financial stress. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to pull this thing off or not. And then I was working out really hard on top of that, which is basically another stress creator. It's not a reliever of stress, it's a stress creator. So when you're not sleeping well at night and you have a lot of stress and then you're working out hard, you're just burning that candle on both ends. Mm-hmm. So basically what happened is I had a really bad breakdown where I developed a serious case of pneumonia, where both of my lungs got filled up with this nasty bacteria. And I had to have several liters of this stuff pulled out. Couldn't train for a long time after that, of course. So I lost a lot of muscle, felt unhealthy, felt terrible. And then I remember looking at my bank account and I had $7 left in my account. So this was a real low point in my life. One, I was unhealthy. I wasn't even a place where I could start teaching courses because I was too unhealthy to do it. And then I had nothing in the bank. So I was like, all right, you're either going to have to go get a regular job, build up the funds, come back, or you're just going to have to push forward hardcore with this. And I decided to push forward hardcore. So that's when I just started banging out a lot of articles and building up my business. But at the same time, I also started researching how to make myself much healthier. And things kept coming back to hormone optimization, because at that time my sex drive was really low, my mood was low, depression was constant in my mind. And then I realized through all this research how important hormones are to addressing all of those components, all of those areas. Because hormones are basically biochemical messengers that induce actions. So if you're feeling really good, there's a hormonal basis for that. If your sex drive is really high and you're feeling really virile, strong, powerful, there's a hormonal connection to that. If you sleep really well at night, wake up refreshed, there's a hormonal connection to that. So once I realized the gravity of this importance, I was shocked why this information is not in the fitness industry at all. Now we're hearing the buzzword hormone optimization quite a bit more. But this is back in 2002, 2003, where no one was really talking about it. Yeah, sure, we talked about testosterone, but anytime someone brought it up, they would talk about what pro hormones to take to increase it, or where to get shots, where to get steroids, things like that. No one was talking about a comprehensive approach on optimizing your hormonal profile, not only to improve your training and fitness goals, but just to improve your life in general. So that's what led to me going down this road of research quite a bit more. And again, this was all for my own personal benefit. As I started applying things, and this is addressing mineral deficiencies, addressing vitamin and mineral deficiencies, optimizing my diet so I have good fats, which are the building block for all the sex hormones, meditation, relaxation strategies so that I was improving my sleep, and then modulating my training so that I'm not burning myself out, basically applying periodization where I'm going through periods of intensity and periods of backing off for full restoration. Things started coming around really nicely. Built all my strength back, my mood was way better. I've always had mild depression throughout my life, and now it's something that rarely ever happens because I'm on top of that now. Mood is always really good. Not always good, but it's good most of the time, majority of the time, I should say. And I realized that a lot of people probably felt the way I did before I got into this information, but just never really vocalized it because they thought it was normal. I mean, think about it. Most people think that it's normal to feel like crap all the time because they do and all their friends do. Mm-hmm. So if you feel like crap and all your friends feel like crap, you're like, oh, well, I guess that's what life is all about, feeling like crap. And that wasn't the way I wanted to live my life. So as I became more vibrant and enthusiastic, I started talking about these things in my kettlebell workshops where I would have a lunch break where instead of people just sitting around, I would say, I'm going to talk about some things that I've been researching and benefiting from and see what you guys think of it. And that led to people becoming very hungry for that information. When I would talk about, look, it's not It's not healthy to wake up with no energy and need coffee to get out throughout the day. It's not healthy to toss and turn all night. It's not healthy to just be beat up from your workouts and have a low sex drive and all these things. And people really gravitated towards that because they could understand it. One of the things that is ironic, but it's something that I understand really well now that I've studied all this stuff, is how when you work out really hard, that can have a deleterious effect on your health and your hormonal profile, where people that tend to enjoy training tend to overdo it to the point where they're actually breaking themselves down. They have adrenal fatigue and their sex drive is low. So it's actually more common for people who work out really hard to have a lower sex drive than people who probably don't work out at all because they're not as burned out. So it's one of those things where I'm not saying don't work out really hard, but you have to address the other side of the equation, which is restoration. Restoration is critical. So getting massages every other week or once a week if you're training hard, that will have a tremendous impact. And I'm not talking about just a little rub down. I'm talking about a good body worker who knows how to break up inflammation and address what you need. Doing stuff such as sauna, spa, deprivation, sensory deprivation therapy is something I learned about from Joe Rogan. I've been playing around with that. That's incredible for relaxing the body, stilling the mind. You know, doing things such as daily meditation, making sure your sleep is on point, especially as you get older. Making sure you apply a periodization approach with training where, for example, you do 3 weeks of hard training, back it off for a week. Even if you feel great in that 4th week, back it off because you'll come back even stronger. So if you balance these things, now you don't have the negatives that come with too much training. You have the positives, and then you have the positives with full restoration where you feel good and you're healthy. You're doing things that are positive for you.
This is something that I've kind of become more passionate about in recent years because I, like you, teach a lot of personal trainers, but mainly the topic of nutrition, performance, optimization. And you're right, in the fitness world, overtraining I think is rife. Every personal trainer relies on a double espresso just to get through the workout or feel that they're really up for that workout.
Right.
They never really sleep more than 6 hours. They're up late doing diet plans for their clients because they've already done 10 PT sessions during the day. And I'm forever now teaching to people. I say, look, I know you're chasing an income, but get more intelligent about your business. Knock 2 hours of PT off a day. Have a bit more time for yourself. Make sure you've got time for your family. Make sure you're addressing your business rather than being in your business. All this kind of stuff. And it's a big problem. Big.
It is. It's important to learn how to work smart. I mean, we all go through periods where you're going to have to put in that level of intensity. I mean, the first several years of my business, I was working generally 7 days a week, and that's what it takes to build a business. You're getting out into this world. No one knows who you are. It's going to take a real driving force and commitment on your part. But if you do it right for 4 years, you should be able to pull back the reins now and then start picking and choosing opportunities. And also, freedom is very important for me. So in other words, freedom, the ability to do what I want to do most days, to have time to enjoy my life, not just work all the time. Those are all very important things to me. And now I'm in a place where the majority of my income comes via my nutrition supplement line. These are products that I design myself, that my own label is on them. And that's the ultimate passive income. Because you sell a video, people buy it once, that's it. Then you make another video, people buy it once, that's it. So you can make good money with videos and ebooks and so forth. And if you're passionate about doing it, you should. But that's only going to go so far. Now, I didn't create nutrition supplements because I saw dollar signs in my eyes. It was one of these things where I played around with different herbs. I benefited from them. I was recommending them all the time to people, not making a dime. And then I said, you know what, why don't I design these things myself, put my own label on it so that I'm monetizing that stuff. And that's where I got, and I started that whole process around 2012. 2012, I started doing it. And that's been extremely lucrative, where now I have more free time than I've ever had. And now when I teach courses, it's a lot more fun because the pressure is not on to, make sure I get a certain amount of people in the room, make sure I do a certain amount of courses each year. Now I teach courses, and I still want to do well at courses. Don't get me wrong. I'm not doing it for free. It's not a nonprofit endeavor, but the pressure is not on it anymore because I make so much money doing other things that now stuff like that has become much more enjoyable. It's much more fun for me to teach a course.
So with, the hormone-based supplements, why should people pay attention to them? Because there's so much talk in the fitness industry about hormone optimization, People get kind of lost in it, and we know that there's an awful lot that you can do from the ground up. You know, we've just talked about it, and we've talked about it loads on this podcast. Sleep, the right diet, recovery, meditation, walking, relaxation, family, the kind of balance aspect. So where does supplements fit into it? Because surely it's not a black and white thing, like everyone can benefit from a supplement.
Well, everyone can benefit from supplements. What the key, though, is to determine what is actually the right strategy for you. So supplementation should be personalized. Mm-hmm. All right. So going back to your question, though, the big picture of hormone optimization with nutrition is addressing the master control hormones, which are leptin, insulin, growth hormone, adrenaline hormones, melatonin, right? So out of all those five, leptin is the most important one. And leptin was discovered in the 1990s. It's a hormone in fat cells which communicates with the brain. So it's like a fuel gauge in our car. It lets us know when we're filled up. And when leptin is working properly, our metabolic rate is set really high. So we burn fat more effectively, and we have energy to be allocated towards other things such as testosterone production, DHA production to keep our adrenals healthy, growth hormone production, etc. So we can optimize leptin by having a good balance of protein, fat, carbohydrates, low glycemic carbohydrates at each meal, and then having longer stretches in between each meal so that we go to stored body fat for energy more, and then we don't have so much energy being dissipated on digestion. So long stretches such as 6 hours or more in between meals will actually help in not only improve your growth hormone, but improve insulin and leptin sensitivity, so you don't have to produce too much of either to get the goals done, to drive nutrients into the muscles, the cells, the liver, etc. And then you'll find that you actually have more energy. So instead of eating 5-6 times a day like a lot of trainers recommend, where you're eating every 2 to 3 hours, that's a very inefficient form of eating in the sense that, one, it's time consuming because you're always thinking about eating. 2, you're never really satisfied at each meal. And then 3, you're not going to store body fat as effectively as you would by taking longer stretches. But also you'll find that you have more energy, it's more convenient. So anyway, I have a lot of information on that topic on my website, mikemahler.com. But it starts with optimizing leptin. So yes, no doubt you can do a lot via nutrition, modulating your training, taking care of your restoration, no doubt. Where supplements come into the picture, though, is when you want to push that over the top. So you're doing all of those things, and you're having moderate benefits. You take something like my testosterone booster, now you're going to go to the top of the scale. So you may do all those things and have good testosterone. Now you're going to have great testosterone. You also have to keep this in mind. When you're working out hard, that's not increasing your testosterone and growth hormone levels. That's lowering it, especially as you get older. Anything you do, probably over 40, working out hard, is actually going to lower these things. So what's the goal? Don't work out hard anymore? No. Working out hard has a lot of benefits. I want to be strong and powerful as a man, so that's not something I'm gonna trade off on. So what can I do that's gonna support those goals when I'm going through those phases? And taking something like my testosterone booster, which ramps up natural testosterone. It's not a form of testosterone replacement. It's not a form of hormone replacement. It helps your brain communicate with the testes better, converts more cholesterol into testosterone, so that now your testosterone is actually going to either go up or at least stay at a good level instead of just plummeting when you're going through that hard training phase. And then on top of that, you're going to feel great. You're going to feel strong and virile, and that's going to carry over to everything else you do, whether it's your business goals, your family life goals, etc. When you feel good and energetic, that is going to permeate into anything you're trying to improve upon. When you're tired all the time, like you mentioned about a lot of trainers, where you have to drink coffee all day to get through the day, you have to have a pre-workout drink with 400 milligrams of caffeine to get through your workout. Not only are you not a good role model for the people you're working with, that's a battle of attrition that you're going to lose. At some point, you're going to have serious burnout, and then you're not going to be able to work out at all for a long period of time. You're going to be weak and out of shape for a long period of time. So if you don't take charge of these things, you're going to have the inevitable breakdown like I did in 2002.
You mentioned your supplement and training stress quite a lot. Does that mean adaptogens play a role in your supplement?
Yeah, I mean, there is an adaptogen in my testosterone booster called Mucuna, which increases the brain chemical dopamine, which is very important for motivation, for mood, for sex drive. And then I have another product called Restorezyme, which are systemic enzymes which help mitigate inflammation. So when you're working out really hard, you're creating a lot of inflammation. When you have a lot of stress in your life, a lot of inflammation. So by taking something like systemic enzymes, which are what in Restorezyme, that actually lowers inflammation so that you induce recovery much more so. I think systemic enzymes help with workout recovery more than any other nutrition supplement, more than essential fatty acids, way more than fish oil. Systemic enzymes are one of those things where it hasn't picked up in the athletic community as much as it should have, given how beneficial they are. But that's something that I'm changing. The people who buy that product from me, they love it. It's very rare that I have someone who's a non-responder to Restorazon where they just didn't get anything out of it. Once we find the activation dose, which could be as high as 15 caps or as low as 5 or 6 caps, people notice the benefits. And as you get older, the product becomes even more important because, as we all know, as you get older, recovery starts becoming much more of a concern. And Restorazon really helps with that.
Because aside from general recovery, don't systemic enzymes have research and benefit in them in sort of sports-based injuries and in improving the rate of recovery?
Yeah, they can help a lot with any kind of injury, no doubt about it. Actually, in Germany, from what I've heard, if someone gets into a car accident, they will intravenously give them systemic enzymes to start beginning the healing process. Also, when a woman gets breast implants, that actually creates a lot of inflammation. And the systemic enzymes help them heal and recover a lot faster. So for those of you guys that are thinking about getting breast implants or calf implants, there you go. Get some of my Restorazon, you'll heal faster.
Nice. Okay, interesting. Sticking on the subject of your supplement line, you have a transdermal-based product. Now, the reason why I suppose I'm interested in why and how you came about producing this is because I have a very, very similar product to yours that I sell in the UK,
cool.
which is essentially topical ZMA, zinc, magnesium, niacin, arginine, and trace elements.
Oh, very interesting.
And yours is ever so slightly different. It contains MSM.
Yeah, zinc, magnesium, and MSM. So somewhat similar. That's interesting. I'll have some questions about your product after I explain mine, because I like that's an interesting combination. I haven't heard that before. I wasn't aware that anyone else even had a similar product, so that's pretty cool. Yeah, I like Transdermal because, as I'm sure you know, it's a good delivery source. You get the magnesium into the body much more effectively than taking it orally, where you're going to have maybe a 5-10% absorption rate. Through the skin, it can be a much higher absorption rate, 30%, 50%. We don't know the exact number. But all of that stuff aside, what people do notice when they take my recovery oil is the first time you take it, put 15 sprays on before you go to sleep, you are going to get into a very relaxed state where you go into a deep sleep and wake up great the next day. That's the first thing people notice when they take recovery oil. And it's usually on the first night they take it. It's not one of those things that has to build up in your system. And you can get similar benefits just taking ZMA or oral magnesium, but it's not as profound as the transdermal delivery. So in my opinion, taking transdermal magnesium zinc makes a lot of sense. I've benefited from it personally, which is all my supplements. It always starts with me benefiting from it personally and then deciding, you know what, I bet other people could. So let me add this to my line. So that the transdermal form of the minerals has been very effective.
See, I'm exactly the same as you in that I developed the product purely from experience. I started playing around with a basic magnesium chloride mix. After that, I progressed onto a more kind of trace element rich Dead Sea salt. And then I kind of sort of said, well, there's this theory, there's something happening here, stuff's being absorbed through the skin, it feels like it's more effective and it's more localized. You know, what else can we put into the skin and get this kind of optimized effect? And that's purely how I stumbled across it. And I thought, shit, other people need to use this stuff.
Yeah, it's cool. Now with arginine in your product, have you found that an amino acid can pass through the skin barrier? Is that something that you've ever tested, or is it something that you think in theory?
Well, again, it's a theory component at the moment because we use a HCl form of arginine along with niacin. So we don't actually use it for the amino acids across the skin. We use it to create a flushing effect on the skin to make to make the skin warm and to bring the blood to the surface of the skin. So a lot of the time, if you use our product, you get a mild redness for about 10 minutes, and then it goes down. And that's purely us going, do you know what? We want to try and increase blood flow. Now, like you say, the research on transdermal at the moment is very skinny.
There's not really any clearly defined research on, this much more absorption is going on. It's one of those things, though, that Other things that are interesting though, so for like taking oral magnesium, I've never seen an increase in DHEA, but taking transdermal magnesium, a lot of people get a big increase in DHEA, which is a stress management hormone. So that's what made me gravitate towards magnesium lotion in the first place, is that my DHEA was scoring low. You know, you can take DHEA cream or something like that, but that's a hormone, so there's pros and cons to doing that. Anytime you can do something that's going to ramp up your natural production, that should be the first course. That should be the first pathway you go down. And the magnesium lotion worked really well for that. Mm-hmm. And then I was thinking, well, you know, zinc is so important for testosterone. But we can get more zinc in the body. Zinc and magnesium is a great combination. And then MSM is a permeability product. So it's similar to DMSO, where it actually opens up the skin, and that allows more of the magnesium and zinc to get in there. So it's been a really interesting product. The only people that they're not even non-responders. They're just people that have really sensitive skin where they just get this burning sensation that will dissipate over time. They just don't want to deal with it. Those are the only people that have had any kind of negative feedback from me on the recovery oil. Most people find that even if you have sensitive skin, you just have to start with a really small dose, such as a couple sprays. Your skin will acclimate. I mean, I can put 30 sprays on each leg now and not feel a thing. You know, your skin acclimates to the product after a while.
That's interesting. I didn't know MSM acted like DMSO.
Yeah.
I had no idea.
Yeah, DMSO, basically, they're both basically in the same family. So DMSO is a derivative of MSM. So it acts as a permeability enhancer, which is pretty cool. So it's a good add-on to any kind of lotion. Even some of the hormone creams often have DMSO or MSM in it because it helps get more of the hormone in. Like DHEA cream absorbs way more effectively than orally. I think orally you get maybe a 10% absorption rate, while through the cream it can 50% or more. You know, it gets in. So it's pretty interesting. So definitely for delivering hormones, the creams are way more effective than any oral source. Injection would be more effective than that, but you know, most people don't want to sit there and inject DHEA in themselves or any other hormone. So the creams are pretty effective, and then for some of the minerals, it's really effective too. It'll be interesting to see what else. Now there's vitamin D3 creams out there and so forth. Those are intriguing to me. That looks interesting. You know, vitamin D3 has so many benefits for hormone optimization. It's very important for testosterone production, for your healthy immune system. Definitely, that's one thing that I may look into possibly adding to my oil.
Yeah, it'd be interesting how they circumnavigate the carrier issue, because vitamin D is largely fat soluble. So
yeah, that's true. But through the skin, I'm not sure if it would have the same issue. What I've seen with vitamin D3 is that generally it comes in a certain cream with other things added into it. I forget exactly now on the top of my head. And those are the things that help get the vitamin D3 in. The thing about vitamin D3 is that taking a good D3 supplement is very inexpensive and highly effective for getting you into the optimal range. Yeah. So I'm not sure if it matters. You know, it's not one of this. It's not a problem. It's not like taking oral vitamin D3 is not working, where we're going, okay, what else can we do? Yeah, that's going to get it in there. It works. So do we need to go down the route of a cream? I don't know. Or are there additional benefits that you're not getting? Just like there's additional benefits with magnesium lotion versus oral intake. You know, we don't know. At least I don't know. So it's worth looking into, though. I'm intrigued by it.
We currently have 2 studies being done in the UK at the moment, one on a different product we have and one on the magnesium-based product. So hopefully there'll be more research in this area at the moment because, well, I'm paying for it.
Yeah, no doubt. You know, what's also interesting is, I don't know if you've ever tried intravenous vitamin mineral therapy. I do that every once in a while, especially after a long trip where you just have jet lag and stuff like that, or you're just burned out from training, you need a couple of days off, so you just wanted to really get that restoration peaked. And this is where they deliver vitamin C, magnesium, potassium, electrolytes right into your bloodstream. That's pretty profound, especially the more depleted you are, the more you feel it. Oh, wow. Where, I mean, all of a sudden, as it's going in, you just feel your energy going up. You feel your mood getting better. You feel your recovery getting better. You could have a day where you're just wiped out, and then you deliver that in, and you feel great by the end of the session. I think it's particularly beneficial when you're at the early stages of a cold. Like you're starting to get a runny nose and you're sneezing. You're like, oh, man, I need to kick this out now. If I can kick it out now, the big symptoms won't kick in. And I think that's where that intravenous vitamin C was very useful. It's one of those things, though, where you don't want to get distracted by all these things too much, though, where all of a sudden you're getting intravenous mineral therapy once a week, and you're going to a sensory deprivation chamber every other day, and then you're getting massages and you're doing all these other things. You don't have to overwhelm yourself. When I say have a restoration protocol, pick a few things that you can be consistent with. Don't feel like you have to overwhelm yourself where now it's a second job. Now you're adding in an additional job for your recovery.
Interesting. So with the vitamin intravenous doodar, like what kind of practitioner does that in the US?
It's going to be a nurse, a doctor, a medic.
Okay, so
someone with that kind of background.
Pay for that on your private healthcare in the US?
Well, it's definitely not going to be something that your health insurance covers. That's for sure. Here in Vegas, it's popular for a different reason than athletic performance. Hangovers. People like to party, as you know, out here, right? Yeah, exactly. Hangovers. So people party all night. They wake up and they feel like crap. They get the intravenous therapy. It gets rid of the hangover immediately, and now they can go party again. That's how effective it is, though. It'll literally get rid of your hangover. I'm not saying this from personal experience because I don't drink. I don't drink much anyway. I certainly don't drink to the point where I get a hangover because I hate that feeling. But people I know who do say that it's amazing. It's night and day. It fully rehydrates you because you have a hangover. Why? You're dehydrated. Excuse me. You have mineral deficiencies. Hold on one second. About to choke online here. Speaking of hangovers, no. So that's why it's so popular here in America. So there's a good friend of mine who actually runs a clinic. He's a medic. He started a company where he and another team of medics, they actually go to people's hotel rooms and then they deliver this the next day after the hangovers. He works with a lot of the UFC fighters because after they make weight, they're completely dehydrated. They're depleted of vitamins and minerals. Get that back in their system. And he's a friend of mine, so I can have him come over to my house and he'll set up the whole thing here. I don't do it that often because I don't really need to. You know, I do it every once in a while. I do it if I feel like maybe a cold coming on, or I just got back from an international trip, or I'm just wiped out for whatever reason and I want to accelerate my restoration. But it's pretty powerful stuff. And he's obviously doing really well in Vegas because there's high demand for that. Everyone's coming out here to party.
I bet that guy is killing it.
If they can party more, then you have a nice little viable business there for sure.
Yeah, I don't think that's going to work in my sleepy little Suffolk town, I'm going to be honest. But if anyone's listening to the podcast and they do intravenous vitamin therapy, then hit me up because I'm really intrigued.
Well, you know, my friend Sabina Scala, who's a great coach based in London, she tried it out there, but she says it's really expensive in London. I think she said it's the equivalent of $400. I think that's about 200 pounds, 200 quid in the UK. That's really expensive because I get it for, I think maybe 50, 60 bucks or something like that. Now, I've got the friend discount, but even if I didn't, it wouldn't be more than $100 for most people to try that out. So it's definitely not cheap. And this is what I mean where you don't want to get distracted by a bunch of things. You know, focus on the things such as your nutrition, vitamins and minerals, optimal sleep. Anything on top of that is just fun experimentation. Mm-hmm. Don't make it something where you're blowing. I mean, I know people who blow thousands on supplements and all these different things, and these aren't people that are professional athletes. They're just recreational people. Now, if you have the money and you want to do it, go for it. But don't feel like you have to create further stress on yourself by saying, "Wow, I need all of these things." And now you don't do anything as a result of it because it's overwhelming. You know, we live in the information age where sometimes if you're bombarded with too much information, that will paralyze you. And now you don't do anything. So just pick a few things that you can be consistent with and start from there.
Very true, my friend. Very true. We are in a world of information, and sometimes it can be tough for people, especially when you're still reading Men's Health.
Well, that's why that sensory deprivation chamber is pretty interesting. I don't know if you've ever played around with that before, but it's something I heard about on Joe Rogan's podcast, right? He's a big fan of it to the point where he actually has the chamber in his home. And the same friend of mine who gave me the IV treatment, he told me that there's now a facility in Vegas where they have these chambers set up. And I go, you know what? I've always wanted to try it. I'm going to go do that today. This was last week. So basically, you get into a pod, which looks like something they would launch out of a spaceship if we were about to blow up. It looks like, you ever see the movie Aliens where they're all traveling in those what looks like these coffins through outer space? It looks like a bigger version of that. It's pretty interesting. So anyway, it's filled with water, which has 1,000 pounds of Epsom salt. So you want to talk about transdermal magnesium. You're going to get a lot of magnesium during this process. Now, the water duplicates your body temperature. So it's not going to be hot. It's not going to be cold. It's going to be very comfortable. You have plenty of space in there to float around. and then you can close this pod and turn the light off where it's completely black. I mean, it is pitch black. Like you can't see a thing. Your eyes are wide open. It's completely black. And then there's music coming through, but you can shut that off too. So now you're depriving all of the senses. Now, some interesting things happen when you do that. Can't check your phone in there. Can't have phone calls in there. No one's in there with you. At least no one was in there with me. And so you're in there by yourself, alone with your thoughts. Right there, a lot of people are already discouraged. Like, I don't want to do that. That sounds boring. Or they don't want to think about stuff. They're constantly distracting themselves because they don't want to think about things they probably should think about. So while you're in there, initially you fight it, you resist it. You're sitting there going, man, how long am I going to be in here? And maybe I should turn the light on. Maybe I should put that music back on, because when you deprive yourself of all of those senses, you don't know what to do with it. It's uncomfortable. But if you could just let go, you can relax and just let go, which is not that hard to do. After a few minutes, you don't really have much choice but to let go, because what else are you going to do in there? All of a sudden, it starts becoming really interesting. Now your body completely relaxes the way it's never has before. Your body I went there after a sprinting session. My body was tight. I had some muscle soreness coming on. All of that was gone after a 1 hour session. I went back and did it again the next day, because the first day I felt that I was fighting it too much. Like, I would turn the light off and it went completely black, and then I would freak out, turn the light back on, try to turn it off again, turn the music off, and then the silence would be uncomfortable, so I would turn it back on. So you're resisting these things. But I got comfortable with it towards maybe the last 15, 20 minutes. So I go, let me go back the next day, because now I know what I'm getting myself into and so forth. And this time I was able to shut everything off and then really get into that meditative state. When you come out of it, it's actually really euphoric. You come out energetic, you feel light on your feet, and you just feel completely relaxed. And you almost feel kind of giddy. It's like you want to talk to people about what just happened, because they have this other room there where it's like, hey, if you want to talk to other people and share your experiences, you can have a cup of tea over here. And I was thinking, I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to go into this chamber and I'm going to get out of there and go home. But afterwards, you want to talk to other people about it, because it's an interesting experience. So it's one of those things where I'm gonna do it once a week for maybe the next couple of months, just to see what I think of it. It's too early for me to say like, oh, this is the most incredible thing ever. Everybody should do it. But I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued by that. And one of the main reasons why I'm so intrigued is that we are so bombarded with sensory overload that I think something like this is actually really healthy, because it teaches you how to quiet your mind. It teaches you how to completely relax. So I'm curious to see what the benefits are over time, over many sessions.
Mate, I've done it before as well. Although in the UK we call it a floatation tank.
Yeah, that's what this is. It's a flotation tank. Yeah. So I didn't describe it right. Yeah.
That's what we would refer to it as, and I've done it before. I've done it twice. It's fascinating. It's amazing.
Yeah, isn't it?
It's beautiful. I just did 20 minutes, and it was enough, and it's relaxing. I mean, that once you get relaxed, those 20 minutes just fly by. It's like you fell asleep.
Same thing with an hour. Like the first time, an hour felt like a long time, because again, I was fighting it. I wasn't relaxed. The second time, you're like, whoa, the hour went by fast, where you wanted to stay in there longer because you were just really getting into that deep theta state, that meditative state. So it's pretty cool, man. It's something that I would recommend a lot of people at least try, especially if you're someone that is a stimulus addict, where you're always on Facebook, you're always on the computer, you're texting on your phone, you're listening to music, you're watching TV, then you're working out. Most people are stimulus addicts. They don't know what to do with that quiet time. But if you look at any religious leader or anyone who is considered wise, they've gone through periods where maybe they go out into the forest on their own and they seek solitude, because that stuff is very healthy for your restoration. We need solitude from time to time. We need to be alone with our thoughts to come up with ideas and recharge and refresh. So I think it's something that instead of running away from, we should run towards some of that from time to time.
There's something I do. That's why I walk in the countryside every day with my dog. It's just me and my thoughts, and it's the most creative period. I usually come back from my dog walk with a new to-do list, because I've been able to get creative and get that space, because you're right, the modern world we live in is...
No, it's funny you say that, because a lot of my great ideas come after a long walk. Usually if there's a problem that I need to solve, instead of sitting around about it, I go on a long walk. Usually by the end of that walk, I have some ideas on what I need to do to move forward. So I agree completely.
Mike, this has been a fantastic chat, but unfortunately in the UK it's 10 p.m. And you know what that means.
Hey, my night's just getting started at 10 p.m. That's when people start going out here. That's when the fun starts.
I know. And then they dive in and get a mineral and vitamin intravenous drip.
Exactly. We go party all night, then go to the float chamber.
Yeah. You just get it all done in 2 hours. Lucky them. Mike, I want people to be able to find you if they're interested in your work. What are the best links for people to come and say hello to you on?
Yeah, they can check out my website. It's just MikeMahler.com. You can also get there by going to aggressivestrength.com. And then I'm on Twitter, Mike Mahler. And I think it's Mike Mahler73 on Twitter. I'm on Facebook. I'm on Google+. So feel free to explore any of those mediums in. Ton of free information through all of my different mediums. So don't feel like if you come to my website, you're just going to be bombarded with buy pages. Yeah, I have a lot of that too, but there's also a ton of articles, videos, exercise clips, lectures, you name it, to just delve into a lot of the things we discussed here.
Awesome. And you also have a podcast?
I do. I have a podcast with my good friend Sincere Hogan. It's called the Live Life Aggressively podcast, and you can find that on iTunes. You can find it on Stitcher. All the episodes are archived on my website as well as his website, newwarriortraining.com. And we've had tons of great fitness guests. We've had nonprofit people. We've had just a lot of inspiring people, I guess, if I wanted to just delve it down to one word. Tons of inspiring people over the 120 episodes that we've done.
Nice. Snap. We're on 125 now, so
you're doing good, man.
We've kind of been doing it at the same time. Awesome. Mike, thank you very much for being on the show. You've been a legend of a guest. To everyone listening out there, if you've enjoyed the show, please do me the massive honour of leaving me a review on iTunes or Stitcher. If you have not done so already, it would mean the world to me. When you see this bad boy pop up on Facebook or Twitter, wherever you're floating about on the social networks, give it a share, give it a like, give it a retweet, enable people to find this show and get the information that they need to improve their health and well-being. Me and Rachel will be back on the show next week with your Q&A. If you have a question that you want to send into this show, please send it to bencoomber@gmail.com with the subject line podcast, and we will put it into the mix. And if it's a good question, it will get asked. It is goodbye from me. Goodbye from Mike.
Bye. Thanks a lot, Ben. Appreciate it.
You're welcome, dude. And I will see you very soon. Ciao. Hey everyone, Ben Coomber Radio, episode number 125. I know I said it was episode 125 last time, but we're over 100 and counting isn't my strong point. And once you get over 100, things, well, they get a bit more complicated. Life gets a little bit more difficult.